You think I like Gnolls because I never have to assign training? Hey, don't blow my spot like that, Sapid. Don't tell these people. I was actually thinking just the other day that Gnolls are both a good and a bad suggestion for new players, because it's nice not to have to worry about the skill training, to kind of take that off your plate and let you focus, really narrow in on just the mechanics, just how to survive fights, what fights you can afford to take, that kind of thing. Very useful skills. The downside to it is that you don't train yourself on how to use skills, so when you eventually move out of that camp, you might regress a bit and struggle, but in general, I think for beginners and for lazy people like me, Gnolls are just the way to go. Nailed it on the head there, Safin. And when you combine the facts that I'm a Gnoll of Ashinzari, what that really boils down to is I'm too lazy to assign skills, and I'm always too lazy to identify my consumables, so why not just take both of those off our plate completely? And instead I can just focus on pressing tab as quickly as I can, if things go according to plan. Generally, they don't go that smoothly. If only there was a species that auto-ID'd items, make it even more guaranteed, because Ash won't always show up. You're right about that. All the way back here for a bit of a pseudo passageway. I think I would rather go in here, at least if they sneak around. There's only one slot for an enemy, so that's a bit more manageable, even though we should be able to just tap, 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 tap. Perfect. Absolutely love to see it. Moto Dragon actually could still kill us, I think, with some bad rolls. We've been getting very lucky in a lot of those, as we get offered Fortitude and Beguiling. Ashinzari really wants us beguiling folks in this dungeon, don't they? I mean, Armor and Shields isn't bad. Mummies can't use potions, so there's less stuff to ID. This is very true. It's a step in the right direction for me at the very least. If you take half those off my plate, maybe it will make me slightly more likely to finally ID my scrolls by a reasonable time, but let's be honest here, probably not. And no, I'm not a beguiler. Ash, get out of here. And get exploring again here. I should be slightly more cautious about walking towards enemies if I was playing optimally here. Generally, you want to switch to your ranged, then melee once they come into range. Also, item hotbar. I did not see this dragon past you, so let's maybe be slightly cautious of this little area. At least it's an ice dragon, so that's kind of in our wheelhouse. A scorpion? Oh, poor buddy. Okay, let's hold off on here for now. We'll come back. Let's finish off the rest of the floor first. It's your dream to win, only pressing O and tab. Right, I feel like so many people that I've kind of heard from peripherally talk about those runs where they, you know, get Black Knight's Barding on a Palantonga and just steamroll the rest of the game. And I don't know if I'm doing something wrong or if I've just never had that luxury, because I feel like there's always a lot of moments that kind of pull out and I have to really, you know, hands off the keyboard. That's my strategy. And I need to take that into account or else I'm screwed. I would love to just O-tab one day, even though it might be kind of boring. Sometimes it's fun to get a little bit of wacky and silliness into your run. Plus the drama helps a lot with viewer retention, I'm sure. Though less so if I just keep dying to drama, then it might be an overall deterrent, but you gotta keep it interesting, right? And sacrifice words for Ruse so we can't read scrolls at any time. There we go. Saves us all of the problems that we were just talking about. If you really want a game where you can only O and tab, just make sure that you're a mummy, so you can't drink potions. Worship Rue, so you can sacrifice words and you can't use scrolls. And then you're not going to be tempted to do any of this silliness, and instead you can just focus on your Owing and your tabbing. It's the perfect strategy. I don't see any downsides. But okie dokie, we'll continue through lair here, but real quick, I'm gonna pop out, grab a refill for my drink, and then we'll be good to go. I'll be right back, don't go anywhere, I'll see you in a sec. Okie dokie. Let's pour this son of a gun and then get going. Conjures O&P until you learn Prism. Very true. In fact, now that, yeah, you have like range characters and wizards able to quiver their abilities a bit more easily, and like the fact that even tabbing works on like a bow or sling using character very much changes the game and allows you to O-tab on even more characters, or at least the equivalent OP as well. I would say try and formulate some joke about how OP is OP, but I don't believe that to be true. I think in general you're nerfing yourself to a certain extent anytime you choose to be a little bit lazier in this game. As I've been burned by many times in the past. But there we go. Now that we're just in regular old lair, and since we had to clear out the rest of the dungeon before coming down here, things are going much more smoothly than could possibly be imagined. Absolutely love to see it. We're hoping to find some more resistances as we go down. Specifically, fire resistance is going to become a priority at some point. How many heads do you have? Is that 8? Sorry, I missed it. 8? Well, shucks. I guess Hydras, though, are a perfect example of what I was just talking about, because an 8-headed Hydra, fighting it with a sling would have probably been a death sentence back in the day here. But no problem whatsoever, can just keep up our silly alt-tab shenanigans. Or not alt-tab, O-tab, there we go. Blink frogs are tricky with folded prisms. Absolutely. You're just kind of crossing your fingers and hoping that they land exactly where you'd like them to. Or you just have to surround your entire character with prisms and then hope that it does the trick. Okie dokie. Have our scroll of acquirement here, and it's actually pretty wild. Headcount reads at lower right corner. And no magic Gnoll. I mean, I'll take whatever the dungeon hands at us. I'm actually hoping to get Manifold Assault, because then we're definitely a magical Gnoll. And that works out. But, as for ourselves here, and the Scroll of Acquirement, a +3 Broadaxe of Electrocution is actually a beautiful thing. If there were anything to potentially replace our current falchion, that's got to be pretty high up there. The amulet, of course, is also fantastic. Any source of resistance to electricity is going to be much needed by the later part in the game. I feel like too many of my characters as of late, especially in our Great Player series, have had to go through Zot without our elec, and it is an absolute nightmare. Less than ideal, at least. But yeah, exactly. Let's check out what the Book of Blood has in it. Wereblood could be kind of useful on a hybrid character like this. Probably is completely castable for us by now too. But I'm not super happy about it. Also, I love this little bit of lore. Some claim it to be composed by Lord Jory. I've met Jory before. Wouldn't surprise me. Generally doesn't summon Hydras though. I don't know where that comes into it. Maybe it was a group project. Well, I can't remember. By Suzanne and Joy must have come together to write the dopest spellbook to ever be released onto the marketplace. But so, do I want a Broadaxe of Electrocution or this amulet? currently have an Amulet of Reflection. If we had regen on both our armor piece and our necklace, we potentially might be keeping this around for a long time. Also, have I disconnected from OBS? I think I have. So I should freeze here for a moment. Let's even run over here. Think of my child. Oh, maybe not. Let me know if you can see the stream still. I'm hoping it hasn't completely crashed, even though it did do that on Sunday, so I'm gonna have to do some fixing at some point. And save it you can see. Okay, so I might have just disconnected from the chat side of things, and instead just have a little bit of an awkward pause in here instead of a complete issue like we saw on Sunday. So that's always good. I'm hoping you reconnect to OBS. I believe in you. You can do it, friend. I thought disconnected, but you can still see and hear. Well, that's good. It must have just disconnected from the chat, which fortunately I can still read on my laptop since I have the stream manager up over on that side of things, but still less than ideal. Always makes me worry that it's a bit more serious of an issue. But thank you, SafeIt, for making sure that we're in a good place. I guess my screen probably doesn't show all the most recent chat, hey? So that probably goes directly through OBS. So we're just gonna take a brief moment here. I'm gonna bring up my chat doc on this side of things. Are we better? That does not look better. Capture isn't updating on your capture though. Perfect. Or chat isn't updating on your capture. That's exactly what I was concerned about. Well, that's fine. We might just have to let sleeping dogs lie here and keep going in a strange half on, half off kind of sense. Because, yep, OBS is very unhappy. It's rioting. Riot. Well, that's okay. Maybe we'll reconnect at some point as we go here. Until then, I'll just have to awkwardly look back over my shoulder anytime I want to chat with you lovely folks. But okie dokie. As for the run here, I mean, yeah, the broad axe is definitely high priority for me. The amulet is just kind of a fun little combo and gets us one of the resistances that we otherwise might struggle a little bit to get under our control for now. I think that we can leave this acquirement scroll alone and save it for the future. Oh, WebSocket connection was closed. Oh gosh, everything's falling apart. It's all crumbling down around us. Well, hopefully don't have to give up for the night. I don't believe it's my internet in general, because again, this side of things going fantastic. But apparently this side of things is where it all is struggling. I don't know if it's on my end or the servers. Well, again, we'll give it a moment here. We'll take a brief respite from our run. Think fondly over how well the Gnoll is doing so far. How disappointing it's going to be when I just absolutely run them headfirst into the ground in a couple of floors here, no doubt. And we'll let this have a brief moment to get itself under control. Do we need that resistance to electricity? Kinda. We definitely do. I mean, ideally, we come across another artifact ring that we can replace the willpower one that we're currently wearing with, but there's no guarantee. So I am kind of hoping to see something else come out of it. This is such a strange thing where it seems like half my internet connections have completely crashed, but you're still seeing me. So obviously something's still chugging along back there in the back end. Instead, I just have to awkwardly riff a little bit on the spot here. Well, waiting for some kind of progress. Don't know if there's a heck of a lot that I can do here to take steps on my own. I guess we could go back to the lobby, potentially. See if this leaves us in a slightly better place. Are respots enough for substitution? I'm not totally sure what you mean by that, Colgate. If you could let me know what you were thinking. Sorry, connection's still failing here. Are we just gonna have to shut her down for the evening? I was hoping to make a little bit more progress on the character. Especially since there are a few things on the Gnoll that I want to take into account before we move on. Specifically, we probably are able to still cast quite a few spells, so we should check out our availability there and what kind of things that we could have under our disposal. I mean, even like an hour ago, potentially longer than that, there were a couple of things that I was thinking about getting onto the list because they were already down to a relatively low failure rate even in our current level of armor. Is the DCSS website down? They usually play offline, but for tournaments I need to be online. That's exactly it. For the tournament, in order to count for the team and everything, get the sweet points and the sweet taste of victory within the tournament, we do have to be online. So we are relying on this. It could be the site. I know that last Wednesday we did have some issues on the server side. But because it seemed to be perfectly timed with my chat breaking, I'm assuming it's on my end, if I had to guess. Oh, are the resistance potions enough for Arlek? They definitely could be if you have enough of them. Unfortunately, it gets a little bit trickier by the time you get to, say, like Zot, because so many of the enemies you go up against have electric branding. For this part of the dungeon, not too bad. Could definitely find some kind of short-term solution, some kind of patchwork band-aid to smooth it all over without too much trouble. Well, I'll probably be giving it another 5 more moments here. Nothing is more important than fake internet points. Exactly. I need that sweet dopamine shot straight through my brain here. The credit of my peers as well. The awe and admiration by getting 1 win in the victory when Yermak, I know last time I checked on the tournament page, had a streak of 13 victories. I'm sure he's played hundreds of games. I mean, that's potentially something we could do. As long as this side of the crawl sites is not experiencing issues at the moment. Let's do a little bit of a tournament overview while we have a moment here to let everything else recover. Because Yermak is, of course, top of the board. We were hoping that as a team, we'd maybe collect enough points to beat them. But I know that we can't use the overall scores here because these seem to be mitigated in some way for the number of players on the team potentially, or some kind of average throughout the entire team as well. But if our sum total could be over Yermak, that'd be pretty sweet. And I like to see Bob and Alice in the top 10. Way to go, friend. Way to go. We've seen Bob and Alice around on the stream before, so that's pretty awesome to see some good luck and fortune on their side of things. Probably skill, largely as well. And let's see, have we recovered server? Hasn't been quite 5 minutes. But I'm going to keep refreshing it and keep making the server problems worse by just being another part of the long queue causing issues. Yes, one way I could test to see, real quick, if this is on my side or on my computer side or not. So I can hop over to this son of a gun. Let's go to the Crawl with Craziac server. I'm worried that it's just going to be totally okay on this side of things. It is totally okay. Well, I apologize profusely to all of you lovely folks that were experiencing some level of issue and difficulty here. Maybe what we'll do real quick is try to just... Let's see, let's pop in here. Transition away. Let's shut her all down. And bring up a new tab. And try from ground zero here, shall we? Could have been just unfortunate timing as I switched to my laptop, but I sincerely doubt it. I think this is an issue on my end. How far out am I from the nearest server? Can you hit up any of the other ones? I can, fortunately. Being in Canada, that I'm pretty close to the States, and there are quite a few endpoints in the States, or server points, I should say. So I play in the Arizona-based one, but I probably could try out, like, Ohio. New York is kind of far, but could still be preferable to this. Unfortunately, I don't believe that things are shared between servers. Specifically, I don't think that I'd be in on the same character, unfortunately. Which is who I wanted to get some progress on before the evening was through. Worst comes to worst, we could always shut her down a little bit earlier tonight, and I could try and make up at some point over the next couple days. I think I could probably fit that in. Definitely a busy week for me, but I'd be happy to try and get a victory before the end of the tournament on Sunday. That's the plan. Yeah, Dr. Pyre, you kept having issues with a Craziac after being on it for years. You started using Kelby. Game isn't shared, but more files do seem to get amalgamated. Oh, interesting. Oh, that's pretty cool. Oh my gosh. Hold up. We've done it. Hey, you're back. Chat isn't back yet though. So one final moment here as I reload the chat doc for OBS. Has everything resolved itself? Oh my gosh, I see all the beautiful folk, all the wonderful names. Also, didn't notice that my laptop was unmuted this whole time. Whoops. Tori, you have a confession. You VPN into Canada so you can watch the Olympics. I'm sorry, but your announcers are just better. We have no idea what the hell my commercials are advertising. That's fantastic. No, I'm sure there are a bunch of very Canadian-only references and stuff like that. But I'm glad to hear announcers here in Canada are good. I generally watch Canadian coverage for things like the Olympics, and they go pretty well. But that's really great. I should get a VPN at some point. I'm a pleb over here, just struggling along with regular old internet service providers, being able to seal my junk, and I can't pretend that I'm in other countries to get the good Netflix. Though I will say I kind of like the Canadian content for a lot of these places, so it all works out in the long run. But, you like Craziac because it allows to play older versions than Kelby seems to. That's funny. And it's all just commercials for hot chocolate and cheese-covered potatoes? What else? Wait, I'm confused. What else would they be advertising? It seems like you summed up everything important in life in that sentence, so I don't know why there would be any other commercials. Unless you come from the States, because if you come from the States, I'm sure you're used to prescription drug commercials going on all the time. But fortunately, that's something that was shut down in Canada pretty early on. But okie dokie, let's hop back into the game here. See if we've lost any progress. No, we're exactly where we were. Just picked up our Scroll of Acquirement. The very rare, much vaunted Scroll of Acquirement rather than Scroll of Disappointments. That's always nice. Of course, now that we're back online, I completely failed to remember my mission statement. during the disconnect, which was to go into my spells and get some stuff sorted. So let's try that out. I seem to sell basically everything at a tire store. Good old Canadian Tire. Plus you get little Monopoly money that you can then spend to buy new stuff. So that's pretty sweet. In the US, it's all just commercials for legal drugs and MSG flavored corn snacks. I can get behind the corn snacks, but yeah, the legal drugs is the one that I find very interesting. Advertising prescription drugs, like people should just be taking them like candy, has some issues to it, let's just say. You mean you buy tires and windshield wipers and stuff at your tire store? No, yeah, Canadian Tire is a fantastic place. It has pretty much everything. It's like Walmart, but for like handiwork and camping, as well as a lot of the stuff that Walmart has. It takes away the grocery side and just substitutes in like power tools. It's a pretty awesome place. Not least of all because I absolutely adore doing things like carpentry. If you live in Florida, for some reason 8 out of 10 commercials are for lawyers. And commercials for drugs, won't medical doctors know what you need? Exactly. Isn't that the better way to do it, is find out that you need a drug instead of just seeing a commercial that... I mean, all commercials are kind of a false representation of the product to some extent, right? They have to cut corners. They're making things more approachable and likable by the generalized audience, so it's super weird to have it for drugs. Being from somewhere outside the US, it's just unthinkable to have that be constantly on the screen. But maybe that is just a context-based thing based on growing up both overseas and in Canada here. Why is it the tire store? I don't actually know the history of Canadian Tire, because I'm guessing it did start as a tire store, right? With a name like that, you'd think so. And they do have tires, don't get me wrong. They have quite a decent automotive section in general, so you can get that stuff all tip-top shape there as well. It's a one-size-fit-all, and again, if you want some fun little Monopoly money, that's more Monopoly money than Canadian currency, which I know is already kind of borderline anytime you have fancy, colorful money. But Canadian Tire dollars are where it's at. You just collect an absolute crap ton of those and then shove them in a pocket and completely ignore them. Hey Pabs, how's it going? So different in Canada, it's prohibited to have commercials for drugs, and we don't have many lawyer commercials because soon isn't as common. Yeah, definitely not as many. I have been hearing a decent amount of lawyer ones on the radio lately, and each time I'm just kind of shaking my head and confused about them because... I don't know, I feel kind of sorry that so many people have families that would like screw over their loved ones in order to get stuff out of their will and whatnot, but I'm pretty privileged and fortunate to have good people in my family who I believe would respect my will as written. I personally love the idea of a store that sells a ton of stuff and has nothing to do with their headline act. It's some kind of marketing, right? You'd struggle at the start, but as soon as it got around that you are like the popcorn store and you sell no popcorn, probably could have thought of a better example than that, but I'm running with it. But okay, let's learn swiftness, let's learn pass wall. What else did I have here that I wanted? And Sorcerer of Habination, probably a little bit too far gone now to bring that side in. Frozen Ramparts could be nice for some auxiliary damage on top of what we're doing. But I'm mostly looking like Irradiate is going to be huge for a hybrid fighter. That's fantastic. And well, one of those things about suing is they usually don't sue the person themselves. You're actually suing their insurance company, which is actually worse when you think about it. Right, yeah, the prevalence of suing is really interesting. One, the rough part about that is it gives a bad name to certain cases. Like, everyone always likes to quote the McDonald's lawsuit where coffee was too hot, and so they sued McDonald's. But that's actually a horrible example to use as, like, stupid suing, because it was actually, like, in that case, it was dangerously boiling water, and it was an old lady, and it was spilled directly onto her, so it actually is a bit more cut and dry than it seems to be suggested by the majority of people who kind of bring it up randomly as a fun little, isn't America stupid? But no, not in that case. It's very relevant and important that she gets some restitution for the horrible burns inflicted on her. It wasn't just that the cup didn't say it was hot or anything like that. It was too hot, from what I understand. So I'm ready to be incorrect in my own assessment or memory of how exactly each and every one of these little lawsuits turns out. Let's see, can I face a death yak? I think so. And Babs, you Googled Canadian Tire? It's so funny. The importance of tires to their business was formalized when they incorporated as Canadian Tire Corporation Limited in 1927. AJ later recalled that they picked the name because it sounded big. Oh, is there anything more Canadian than that? Well, you know, we thought we wanted a cool name, and so, you know, we thought, why not Canadian Tire, eh? Sounds important, like one of those big US chains, which we're, of course, all emulating. Carry a dagger around with Passwell and Astral Sight, you get some easy stabs. This is very true. That could be fun. That McDonald's coffee lady had to get dozens of surgeries. Exactly. Yeah, classic products liability case, and the decision was right. Because here in America, in many ways, you rein in corporations with individual rights to sue. Exactly, yeah. So I always found that one funny because it's used so often as an example of the bad side of it. But it was very, very relevant and important for her own state of living moving forward. So it's funny, you want to be able to like trash talk silly suing practices when it is relevant, but it's sometimes hard to draw those distinction lines, or usually they're just not quite as defined as they might seem on first blush. And right, yeah, I actually remember, I think you mentioned that before, Safid, that you're a US-based lawyer, so I appreciate your perspective a lot more than my own, because I have no idea what I'm talking about, but I can actually put some credence and respect onto your words, because you actually know a thing or two. So thank you so much for bringing in some real perspective instead of the heedless ramblings that I go on to sometimes fill the airwaves here. Super interesting. Thanks, Safe and Dr. Piper, for the info on that. Exactly, yeah. Thank you to you both. That's awesome. And in general, just for the conversation topic, I'm always happy to talk about how silly some Canadian things are. And it's interesting to compare the perspectives from Canada and States, because we're so close to each other, and in so many ways we're defined by the same cultural identity. But it's those little things that kind of make life interesting, right? Make us each our own beautiful butterflies. Okie dokie. It's so funny. Now I'm so invested in the conversation topic, especially since we had the server downtime. I'm completely thrown off from my usual DCSS mentality and kind of rhythm that I get into on these streams. Fortunately, game's not throwing anything too tough at us, so we're okay, and I can instead just enjoy the lovely conversation with all you fantastic individuals. But I'm waiting for something silly to happen and this Gnoll to just bite the bit in a horrible way. The US still loves Canada. You're having a rough go right now. Honestly, so is Canada at the moment. I will say, with some debatable influence brought on by the States, specifically with the protest rally, the trucker rally up here, has a lot of funding from down south, but it's an interesting world in general. Canadian Tire now reminds you of the Reddit joke about r/trees and r/marijuana enthusiasts. Was there a lot of confusion there? Did a bunch of tree fans keep going to r/tree? Because you're not telling me that marijuana enthusiasts subreddit was about tree lovers, right? Because that would be hilarious if they just fully swapped positions. I'll be very sad that I've never heard about this before, because that sounds absolutely hilarious. Yeah, we feel that our convoy is in the image we'd love to portray. Yeah, not exactly the stereotypical Canadian mentality. Yeah, look, we're sorry about that. And you should be. Oh, it is what it is. It's what being neighbors is all about. The good and the bad. We'll take what comes up and just hope that we can get through it in one piece. So r/trees was first, and they were a marijuana subreddit. So the arborists started r/marijuana enthusiasts for tree things. Oh my gosh, it did work like that. Oh, that's hilarious. Are they still switched around like that, or have they been reclaimed? Because I would love it if the arborists just kept going forever. Oh, that is fantastic. Yeah, it is still like that. That is great. I feel sorry for the poor, like, 8-year-old child who's just starting to get into trees, you know, learned what deciduous meant and thought, that's pretty neat. I'd like to see what other types of trees there are in the world. And then they get in huge trouble as their parent looks over their shoulder. What are you, Kush? What are you looking at? Oh, poor children. Internet is a wild place, isn't it, folks? Oops. Little bit of lag. We're okay? We're okay. All good. It's honestly our own alright people who started it. Kind of portrays itself as better, but we're equally as bad as in our histories. Social science teacher here. Yeah, we're definitely no better in how we've treated the various demographics within our own country. I mean, even to this day, where like the convoy gets so many more chances versus like if this was an indigenous protest, you can bet that the military and the RCMP, everyone would have been called in instantaneously to deal with it, because we definitely have our own issues with systematic racism and things that have just never fully been addressed or brought to any kind of meaningful resolution for the demographics that are at risk and harmed by the horribleness. Cool, you heard that enemies used to run away at low health and you needed to chase them down to finish them. Did I play back then? I don't remember if they still had, like, I probably did play at that time, just based on how long I've played the game. And I feel like I might have read that in a changelog at some point, but it's definitely a fun little mechanic that I can see why they took it out, because it's really cool from a thematic point of view, and it sounds like a lot of fun kind of scenarios could come out of it. But for the most part, it'd probably just be you chasing after every single enemy. And when it's something like a bat, oh gosh. Oh gosh. Just might as well triple your playtime on any given run, and that'll be about right for what you'll see moving forward. Don't sell yourselves short. Canada has tons to be proud of. If anyone can figure it out and solve it, you guys can. I appreciate the vote of confidence. That's very nice. Yeah, I think that part of it is just coming to realization that we're not completely holier than thou, because I think that Canadians got a bit of a complex for a while about how we're the perfect country where everyone loves each other and nothing bad happens. But that's how you get people growing up who don't mean it in a harmful way, but they'll say things like, there's no racism in Canada. But like, come on. There's definitely racism in Canada, and we should be aware of it, at least so that we can go forward to try and fix some of the issues in our past. I mean, at the end of the day, we are a colonial country, I guess is what kind of complaints I keep going back to, but I like to think that we're slowly but surely working towards a more positive place, and the politeness does kind of help to a certain extent with kind of pushing things towards that direction. Oh yeah, I totally love being Canadian, just very historically aware. You know, things we're trying, exactly. Your university's on strike trying to change it right now, so fingers crossed. Yeah, definitely a period of change at the moment, which is good. It's good to be ready and willing to be on the balls of your feet and make sure that you're taking the opportunity to make changes for the better when you can.